Last month, Jim Ryan came out and revealed that PlayStation plans on acquiring new game development studios, with the PS5 right around the corner, and citing that content is more important than ever before. Obviously, I could not agree more. After all, it's the killer exclusive lineup that I think plays a key role in PlayStation's continued success. God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, Spider-Man, Uncharted 4, the list goes on and on. It's these games that secured the PS4 as my personal platform of choice, and with me many others. Now that being said, the competition does not stand still either, and with so many success stories, it's easy to overlook the developments that could cause PlayStation's position to falter eventually. First of all, there's Microsoft, who expanded upon their own amount of studios significantly in the last 2 years. Their currently announced games may not have anyone at Sony panicked yet, but with talented teams like Obsidian, Ninja Theory, The Initiative and Playground Games who have yet to show what they're truly bringing to the table, there is definitely potential for some impactful Xbox exclusives in the future. In the meantime, PlayStation Worldwide Studios network has only reduced in size. In the last decade, Zipper Interactive, Studio Liverpool, Guerrilla Cambridge and Evolution Studios were shut down following the underwhelming reception to their titles. There was a falling out with Team Ico, and collaborations with second-party studios like Quantic Dream, known for Detroit and Heavy Rain, or ThatGameCompany with Flower and Journey have also seemingly ended for various unknown reasons. Fortunately, the developers that remain are on top of their game. Just look at Sony Santa Monica, at Naughty Dog or Guerrilla. But I guess what I'm really just trying to say is that I do agree with PlayStation. From a pure business perspective, it's high time for a few new investments. The big question being where to start. At the end of the day, there is a lot to choose from. So I decided to make my own list of the top 10 studios that I believe PlayStation should, and more importantly, could acquire. Therefore, I'm obliged to stress out, I formed my top 10 with 3 different factors in mind. Which developers do I feel fit the PlayStation portfolio best? Which studios am I personally a big fan of? And how viable is the idea of them being bought up? Acquiring a studio like, say, Rockstar Games sounds great on paper, but let's be real, it's just not gonna happen. Each of the 10 studios featured in my list may already be possible targets in sight. As much as I'd like them to, that factor of viability is especially why FromSoftware ultimately couldn't reach the final spots on the list, because with the recent multi-platform successes of Dark Souls and Sekiro, I predict they see little desire to be taken over. Nonetheless, there is a large history here, going back all the way to the original PlayStation, for which they exclusively developed their first games. That partnership remains ongoing. Look at Demon's Souls, Bloodborne or even the VR title Derison. FromSoftware's games are immensely appreciated by the PlayStation audience for their Japanese design in both art style and mechanics, and for the brutal difficulty that has come to characterize them as of late. Although it's more likely that a future collaboration would simply mean a long-anticipated Bloodborne sequel, that thought in itself is enough to keep me very excited for what they'll bring to PS5. Since the initial news broke out, Remedy Games seems to be the one studio of which people are convinced it's on Sony's radar. It would send a clear message, to say the least. After all, Remedy used to be known for their connection to the Xbox, with Alan Wake and Quantum Break. Still, linear single-player games didn't really mix with the Xbox identity, and as a result, both sadly ended up under-delivering. Remedy has now gone third-party, and indeed, there are signs that Sony became a fan of what they're doing. Control was first announced on PlayStation stage at E3 2018, almost to generate a reaction of shock, emphasizing on the Remedy logo at the very end. Other than that, it's clearly a studio in times of uncertainty, having to approach a relatively small publisher, 505 Games, to help them with this new title. I really don't know what to expect from Control. It looks good, but merely being good wouldn't be cutting it for a first-party PlayStation game. Those games are looked at as special. We'll just have to wait and see how Control fares, only then can I come out in full support of the move. Sure, Bungie likely won't be the popular vote among most of my subscribers, but that doesn't take away they could prove to be a very beneficial purchase. Destiny has managed to maintain over 1 million daily players, and with Bungie taking back the rights to the IP from Activision, they have a choice to cooperate with whoever they wish now. Well, PlayStation has been there from the beginning, with exclusive marketing rights and early access to all of its DLC. The platform holder has also teased that it would like to have more multiplayer exclusives in the future, and that we can expect noise in that particular area in the new term. Regardless of how you personally feel, everyone can see how huge it would be if the studio responsible for creating the Halo series ended up becoming synonymous with the PlayStation brand 2 decades later. Bungie would be a very expensive purchase, but it's definitely one to keep in mind. I still can't quite grasp why Until Dawn never got a full-fledged sequel. The game was a sleeper hit, received well by press and selling close to 2 million copies. It's not like Sony and Supermassive Games had a falling out. The studio continued to develop exclusively for PS4 as well as VR for quite a while. Now though, they've seemingly moved on. Having found a new publisher in Bandai Namco, the Dark Pictures anthology is planned as their next big thing, a collection of short stories still very much in the same spirit but not requiring the long dev cycle. It's a shame because PlayStation lacks in the horror genre, and the games based fully on choice making were lost too following Quantic Dream's departure. Though I'm doubtful we'll see Supermassive acquired until we'll see how their new move pans out, I continue to believe it would be a smart choice. 3 months ago, I had not even heard of this developer yet, but after playing A Plague Tale: Innocence, I'm convinced that Asobo Studio is a fantastic fit. Starting as a small team with the looked down upon task of working on movie tie-ins under harsh deadlines, Asobo matured and hit a straight home run, nailing a genre even the biggest publishers tend to avoid these days, creating a focused, linear game with unique, memorable characters and an emotionally engaging story. In the gameplay department, A Plague Tale may have been limited, which leaves another goal to aim for next time. However, I loved Hugo and Amisha's story, and the heart and soul that A Plague Tale contains made it so much more special than even most AAA games. With the right management and the increase in production budget that Sony could provide, I can only imagine what they could deliver us next. Insomniac Games is the obvious choice. Being already perceived as tied to Sony since the original PlayStation, first with Sparrow, then Ratchet & Clank and Resistance, and now with Spider-Man, it's honestly hard to believe that Insomniac isn't a part of worldwide studios already. Still, there is also a clear willingness to remain independent for them. They shortly went to EA for Fuse and even took a straight U-turn towards Microsoft for Sunset Overdrive, but both of these ventures didn't exactly pay off. Where Insomniac is at home is with PlayStation, there is simply no denying it. Of course, they could choose to continue moving forward, simply setting up contracts for separate titles, but where's the financial security in that? PlayStation will have to shell out quite a sum of money, but there is not a doubt in my mind that it'll be worth it. Many people are still unfamiliar with Giant Sparrow as a studio, but now that What Remains of Edith Finch released for free on PS Plus, I hope that most of you have finally discovered what a gem this game truly is. Yes, it's a short game made by about a dozen people, but I truly believe the smaller, story-driven productions could be of great benefit to Sony too. The costs to make a AAA game continue to increase, so we're seeing growing interest for these games. Think about Concrete Genie, just announced to come out in October. Now, Giant Sparrow has worked with Sony in the past. Their first project was The Unfinished Swan, which was published by them and created together with Sony Santa Monica. The contacts have already been established, the investment will be of relatively low impact, so now it's just a matter of making the deal. The wait has been excruciating, and my level of anticipation for Death Stranding is through the roof. Will Kojima be able to live up to the promise? That is the million-dollar question right now. He's proven himself time and time again, not only with 5 distinctly amazing Metal Gear installments, but let's also not forget PT. Konami may have treated him like shit, but all signs are indicating a much happier partnership with Sony, being given complete creative freedom to make the most insane looking universe and the Decima engine to accomplish this goal. Then again, Kojima Productions officially remains independent as of now, and there is a debate whether Death Stranding could come to PC at some later stage. Naturally, it's smart to see how this experiment will work out before taking any next steps, but as soon as it becomes clear Kojima can handle the responsibility, securing him should be the #1 priority. Crazy as it sounds, for a studio that is focused solely on remastering classic games, Bluepoint has become one of my favorite developers in the industry. They've truly mastered the remaster, and I could not have been introduced in a better way to series like God of War, Metal Gear Solid, and easily their biggest achievement yet, Shadow of the Colossus. Uncharted: The Nathan Drake Collection was the cherry on top, and it's thanks to Bluepoint that I can still play some of my favorite adventures in silky smooth 60 FPS. Over time, the team has grown in both size as well as experience, already teasing that their next project is the most ambitious one yet. It'll be a complete re-envisioning of an old classic, giving light to the current rumors that it could be a full-blown remake of Metal Gear Solid 1, 3 or Demon's Souls. I sincerely hope it's the former, though whatever it ends up being, I'm ready to be blown away once more. Nevertheless, that ultimate goal is still in sight, a completely original IP developed with all the knowledge they've gathered in the years. Whether they'll get to this stage eventually or stick to the remasters, Bluepoint is a perfect fit for Sony. It's not just a highly talented and passionate group of people, but they could forever carry on bringing back revolutionary PlayStation titles of past generations to a whole new audience. There is bound to be a divide in opinion towards my personal #1. ReadyADawn's last venture on PS4 did not turn into the success that both Sony as well as the studio itself had put their hopes on. The Order 1886 was met with mixed reception, in many ways deserved, in others not so much. As one of the earliest exclusives on the system, it was a technical showcase for what the PS4 was capable of. The graphics looked insane, its time period, characters and story were set up well. If only there had been more substance to the entire ordeal. Technical issues or even mistakes in how the IP was established didn't kill the Order 1886, it was a lack in gameplay options and in length to flesh out its character arcs and variety in encounters to live up to the heavy price tag. Both flaws could have been easily avoided had they been granted more dev time. Following the disappointing reviews as well as narrowly sufficient sales, it seems that Sony chose to abandon their relationship. A real shame considering the talent of this team and their amazing prior handheld spin-offs that ranked right up there with the main installments in the blockbuster series they were based off. ReadyADawn continues to prove their worth today. Lone Echo on Oculus Rift is racking up one after another award, and in the meantime a core group of fans holds hope that a sequel to The Order will eventually be made. If there was ever a so-called PlayStation exclusive template, then I know for a fact ReadyADawn understands it in and out. The timing is convenient as the team just moved into a massive new building, suggesting big plans ahead. Now, no first entry ever achieves the true potential that it holds, but if done right, the potential can be felt. Little did we know Uncharted Drake's Fortune would serve merely as a map to the treasure we'd later find. After God of War Ascension scored poorly and Santa Monica's new IP was viciously cancelled, the studio was on the brink of desperation, but look how they killed it just now. A redeeming quality I've always respected about PlayStation that other publishers simply do not possess is their faith in its developers, recognizing their abilities and giving them time to grow. Sony ReadyADawn deserves a second chance.